Yeah, the idea was pretty straightforward. Or the challenge was that we tried to approach this topic of looking back in history as architects and not necessarily as historians. So what you're standing in right here, where we're sitting on right now, is the attempt to produce this architectural montage of two very politically charged buildings. One is, of course, the existing pavilion as it is here already for over 100 years, the German Pavilion. And the other one is an equally charged, politically charged building, but in a complete different way. So it's the Chancellor Bungalow in Bonn, built by or commissioned by Ludwig Erhard, our second Chancellor, designed by Sepp Ruf in '64. So this kind of conversation between these two architectures were our attempt or our method to get into the history of the nation, and also the other story, the story of 100 years of modernism of architecture in Germany. So these two buildings embody the connection between these two narratives, like the history of the nation and its architecture over the 100 years. So in that regard, the year '64 is very important. Of course, the Chancellor Bungalow was built at that year, but also the pavilion got its last big renovation or refurbishment at that year. So by putting these two buildings right in the center of these 100 years, we had the conceptual idea that we are able to use these two buildings as vehicles to go back in history, to slide back to the beginnings of national representation, also beyond 1914. So how was architecture instrumentalized to talk about the nation, and also to express national identity, of course, but then also the whole thing got updated, or was supposed to be updated, by this very immediate, very physical interaction of these two buildings in the year 2014. So both buildings serve each other as context, and the idea is that we get to know these buildings better by reading one building through the other, like this. So this dual legibility is quite important for us, and is a kind of a tool for us to utilize these two buildings, which are here just by their features. Yeah, so there's no other illustration basically in the installation other than the elements of these two architectures. And then this was supposed to form this new space in the intersection of these two buildings. And within this third space, there was supposed, or our idea is that it opens up this kind of space of association, which then of course poses new or different questions about how is architecture utilized as a means of communication, yeah, how is that playing out in these architecture, even though of course these buildings, through their interaction here, also get completely decontextualized and dysfunctional in their way in their original way of representing the nation or talking about the nation. The idea was there in the beginning that we wanted to talk a little bit about, or we wanted to enter this absorbing modernity through representative architecture. So what's the first idea you have? Of course, there's a big building, a giant entrance, and there's a car, yeah? A state car standing in front of that building. So that's the kind of scene of a state visit. So the car was somehow in the car of Helmut Kohl. The original artifact of Helmut Kohl was in our mind standing in front of the car, in front of the building, in front of the pavilion, and of course, then we thought, okay, if the door is open, if the Chancellor just went in, where did he go to? And then the answer was clear, he went home. So he went into his former official house. So then the idea was born that there is somehow the Chancellor bungalow within the pavilion.